All right. You can hit the arrow key on yours and I should stop moving.
Well, I want to welcome everyone to the Social Justice All Souls service today on February 14th. I'm glad to see you here. And I just want to introduce Woulard Lett, who is joining us. We're very grateful and honored to have him with us today. He's been a social activist for over 40 years, both in the UUA, in the UU Association, as well as the wider world. I want to mention that he asked us to send his honorarium to NCOBRA, which is the National Collaboration of Blacks for Reparations in America. So we did send that to him. But this is my moment to suggest to people to remember to send money to All Souls so we can continue to pay speakers and other expenses. So I'm passing the plate at this point virtually. And if anybody needs our address, you can find it in the chat. Let's see, and just as far as upcoming services, next Sunday, we're going to have a service called R3, Rituals, Reverence, and Reward. Rob Peck will be leading that one. That'll be a different sort of service, just All Souls. And the next Sunday, February 28th, Julie Payne Britton will preside, and that will be for all three churches. And my third announcement is thank you for the 22 folks who have responded to the survey that came out, the last 3 What's Ups. And if anybody didn't get What's Up or wants a copy of the survey, please maybe in the chat, put your name and I'd be happy to forward it to you. I know there's some people that don't find What's Up very easily. Are there any other announcements? Great, we'll go on then.
Kate.
Yes, Pam.
Yes, just to announce that Doug White, who has been the person who has been taking in homeless people, and then his house is in receivership because of, I guess, because of complaints. But he is needing a place, one more place to stay. So if you have a place that would take somebody in, that would be great. Or if you know of a way that we could find a place to put him up. He's losing access to the family who's been taking him in for the last 2 or 3 months. Would you, I'm going to put my email in the chat and you could email me. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. All right. So that was the welcome and call to worship. Now let's hear some Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking,
Now we will have our chalice lighting. You're welcome to light a candle. Our chalice lighting today comes from Albert Schweitzer, the great doctor, philosopher, missionary, musician, and Nobel Peace Prize winner. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who've lighted the flame within us. Albert Schweitzer.
Now I invite you to share joys and sorrows at this time. You can just unmute yourself and speak out.
And I'll add, if you're on a phone, press *6 to unmute.
I have a joy I'd like to share. My third grandchild, first child of my youngest, my son, born December 12th, 1 pound, 8 ounces.
Wow.
And February 2nd was his 2-month birthday. He's up to 3 pounds and doing well.
I'd like to lift up a prayer for our country and that we may somehow cultivate a sense of peace and love and compassion for one another in a time which could feel pretty discouraging. So I'm very glad to be here today.
I'm lifting up my brother-in-law, Ben Emerson, who died unexpectedly last night. He was 60 with some medical issues, long-term medical issues. Didn't think that was going to end his life.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'd like to offer a concern and a joy. The concern is the ongoing travesty that supposedly people are impartial jurors and let their decisions be known before the closing arguments have even been said. And just the ongoing way that, as Kate mentioned, there's such political division, and hopefully the pockets of hope in the new administration are candles that are hopeful. I also am personally gratified that several people very close to me, all of whom coincidentally share the initials JP, had always celebrated February 14th as Singles Awareness Day. And for the first time in my memory, they're going to be celebrating it with a Valentine. So there's a joy.
Go ahead, Gary.
I learned, I think it was Thursday night, when I was actually attempting to reach out to somebody I hadn't seen in quite a while, but a dear friend, that she had passed earlier that day. It actually came as quite a shock. Apparently she'd been ill for a little while. We had fallen out of touch, but anyway, it just kind of threw me. So lighting a candle for her. And her name's Deb Kaufman. She's a really wonderful, creative, spiritual teacher and artist, and she actually has a website if anybody wants to look her up. She was in Great Barrington. Thank you.
Well, I'm lighting a candle for appreciation for Woulard Lett being here today. I'm just really grateful that he could make it. And also for myself, having spent the last, I don't know, week trying to find a COVID vaccination for 2 people, me and Lauren. And I have a computer, I have plenty of computer skills, and it is really hard to do. So I think we should have a church group that kind of supports people trying to get vaccinations.
Thanks, Pam. True. And I want to lift up those unspoken joys and sorrows. And let's be together with a virtual hug and prayer. Thank you. Now I'm going to read the prayer for living intention. And I invite Molly to read the second phrase, and but all of you join in the second phrase. Muted would be great. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others.
May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving.
I think we have music now. Dan, there we go.
Ooh.
today's reading yes. Thank you. We're off today's reading, and it is from by Howard Thurman, from Jesus and the Disinherited. I do not ignore the theological and metaphysical interpretation of the Christian doctrine of salvation, but the underprivileged everywhere have long since abandoned any hope of this type of salvation. This type of salvation deals with crucial issues by which their days are turned into despair without consolation. The basic fact is that Christianity, as it was born in the mind of this Jewish teacher and thinker, appears as a technique of survival for the oppressed. That it became, through the intervening years, a religion of the powerful and the dominant, used sometimes as an instrument of oppression, must not tempt us into believing that it was thus in the mind and life of Jesus. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Whenever his spirit appears, the oppressed gather fresh courage, for he announced the good news that fear, hypocrisy, and hatred, the three hounds of hell that track the trail of the disinherited, need have no dominion over them. Howard Thurman, Jesus and the Disinherited.
I think we have one song in between your reading and the sermon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for cueing us.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Bring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky.
Let it
resound
resound.
loud as the rolling sea.
I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.
Let us march on.
Till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're gonna take you to church later. Let's go.
We'll keep marching right until the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till that day comes.
Hey.
Let us march on.
To victory.
Till victory is won.
Thank you. Good morning. I bring greetings from our Unitarian Universalist Association and the New England region staff. The Commission on Institutional Change issued a report titled Widening the Circle of Concern as a theological document, not a political declaration. Throughout its many observations and recommendations is a consistent and persistent call to move our way of relating and our relationships from transactional to transformational. We are called to consider and create a circle of concern that encompasses more than just the consequences of our actions, but includes the creation of our relational environment. The New England region team has developed an approach called spiritual leadership practices that include lifting up gifts, covenant, inner work, binding to tradition, and faithful risking. And I'll say a little bit about each one of those practices. Lifting up gifts speaks to the fact that congregations can be so focused on the business of church that they miss the wonder of each individual and of the community as a whole. Covenant speaks to the fact that Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal, not a creedal religion. It's about how we behave, not what we believe. It does not have a creed that you must believe in order to be a part, but invites you to covenant and how you behave. The practice of inner work. Congregational leaders are often very busy tending relationships and addressing the challenges of institutional life. There's a tendency the culture is a cultural tendency to be drawn into the external, and oftentimes that results in a neglect of the internal, and inner work is designed to address that. The practice of binding to tradition. That tradition allows each individual and each congregation autonomy, yet membership and association assumes accountability. So binding to tradition is to having the ability to live out the best in the tradition that you are in, yet also holds you accountable and responsible for addressing shortcomings that may have arisen in that tradition. And the final practice is faithful risking. Articulating mission and then organizing and living congregational life to stay faithful to an advanced mission requires leaders to engage in ongoing cyclical practice of discernment, action, reflection, adaptation. These practices call us and challenge us to widen our circle of concern, starting with self, extending to our closest personal relationships, including our fellow congregants, embracing our surrounding community, adding our sibling congregations, considering our country, imagining world community, and connecting with an ultimate principle, a higher power, a theological basis for making meaning in and of the world. And just today, earlier, as we were hearing announcements and joys and concerns, it was clear to me that the Greenfield congregation is well connected in terms of that particular idea. But this means this idea of spiritual leadership that each of us can offer, both in terms of our actions, but also in terms of the inspiration that we offer to our siblings, It means that our personal actions are beyond a contract where we do this for that. We return tit for tat. That we are legally bound, but morally free. Our personal actions, rather than being in this transactional sort of context, become more transformational when we become guided by a covenant, a choice freely of our choosing that answers to a higher calling than the demands of the moment, but is grounded in the infinite. The Commission on Institutional Change calls to us as an institution towards reparations. What is this thing called reparations? And why is it important to us? One of the things that happens in our culture is that it's really low context, and we don't, we often see things as having like one single purpose. You can only be one thing at a time, and when we hear the word reparations, there's an association with people of African descent. There's a kind of a distance between those people who are melanin enhanced of African descent and those people who are melanin deficient of European descent in terms of this concept called reparations. But reparations is, first, it's not revenge. Reparations means repair. It is the midpoint between truth and reconciliation. It is not the settling of a broken contract. It is the mending of a torn covenant. Part of binding to tradition is facing it, acknowledging, addressing the shortfalls of that tradition, as well as celebrating what is worthy. Binding to tradition does not mean repeating the mistakes of the past, but understanding and correcting them. James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." A major theme within the denomination in the past few years has been dismantling white supremacy culture. Why is that important? And what does that mean? It is important because it calls us to our guiding principles, particularly the first, sixth, and seventh principles. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. The organizing idea that underlies them all is that we are whole people, we are whole persons. We contain all of what it means to be human in each of us. No one is only the worst thing they have ever done. We all have brightness within us that shines through our attitudes and actions, if not all the time, sometimes. But our culture is low context. It looks narrowly at what is at hand, what our actions are at the moment, and not always taking into consideration the larger context and the impact of those actions. We see this most clearly in the economic concept of externalities, where the focus of the impact of your action is just that, and a result, I feel like I'm editorializing a little bit, but a result of that low context approach is the impact that economic activity has had, and economic activity and technological advancement or operations have had on the planet. When we see things like climate change that's the result of human activity. And even today, we've heard, I say today, but recently we've heard comments by politicians who are saying, hey, we're bringing back the coal industry. We want to, be energy independent, energy sufficient. So we're going to, import oil from tar sands in Canada. All these things are, viewed in a very low context approach where the impact of doing it is an externality. And this view, this low context view, leads us to a binary view of the world. You are good or bad, worthy or unworthy, this or that. We even see it in our understanding of humanity when we categorize people as Black or white. Each category is intended to wholly define the potential of the person. But our faith is not contained in the walls of a church. If we did not know that before, the pandemic has demonstrated that clearly. But also our faith is not only relevant on Sunday. Our faith is part of our whole person and personality, our whole congregation and community. The Commission on Institutional Change reminds us in their report that justice-seeking practices cannot be used as surrogates for deepening our spiritual lives. We have to widen our circle of engagement with our spiritual lives. It's not enough that we profess sometimes to believe what we say we believe, or to behave in the way we've covenanted to behave. But ideally, we would do this all the time. And that means adopting a viewpoint and a way of engaging the world where our daily activities are a form of spiritual practice. So for reparations to fully repair what has been broken, we have to move from doing just one thing to doing everything. An African proverb says, you eat an elephant one mouthful at a time. That is what reparations calls us to do. Everything, just not all at the same time. It calls us to reflect on what is broken in you and how we might begin the process of repair. What is broken in your siblings, in the family, the congregation, and community, and how we might begin the repair. We all have brokenness. And with that brokenness, we all very well may need different things to heal. But we all have the potential to repair both ourselves and those with whom we are in covenant. So what does that mean for a congregation that doesn't have much demographic diversity or diversity of any kind? Where does that leave them or us who don't have direct personal contact with marginalized community members? It is important that we address individual concerns or considerations, but we are also responsible for and to the institutional arrangements that hold and maintain systems of marginalization. So all of us, wherever we are, can act at some level in some way. That's taking that one mouthful. There are actions that may be helpful and useful in widening the circle of concern that may not exist at the moment, but may emerge. There may be opportunities that we haven't considered that you can create. Pope John XXIII is credited as saying, "What is owed in justice should never be given in charity." We need to heal and make whole the injured and address and make whole the injurer. This is not a call to charity, but a call to justice. Reparations is a reciprocal process engaging all parties for the purpose of transformation. This transformation process can come in many ways. I mentioned that even now, as they exist, the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism address this fully. But within the denomination, not because of a theoretical lack, but because of what was viewed as a lack of application of the principles, there's a movement towards establishing an 8th principle among Unitarian Universalist principles. All this in the service of reparations, of repair. Reparations is a reciprocal process engaging all parties for the purpose of transformation. As you widen the circle, please include me in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Woulard. And I'm glad that you'll be able to stay after the service for further discussion. So let's have another slide. I think it's music.
Actually, isn't it the benediction first?
Okay, benediction with Molly.
Yes. Our benediction today is by Paul Robeson, the great African-American stage, film actor, and bass baritone singer. Sorrow will one day turn into joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free.
I want to bring to you something about you. It is a quote. I quote, "Our worst fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. This is with gratitude to Marianne Williamson, everybody. There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yes, there's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, shine. There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. May we know that together. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All in my room, I'm gonna let it shine. All in my room, I'm gonna let it shine. All in my room, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light, this light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it.
Sorry about that. I don't know why it stopped.
I just want to wish you all a blessing. Go in peace, go in love, and go in power. Amen. And please join us for coffee hour.
Kate, could I quickly sneak in an announcement, if it wasn't already announced, that next week there'll be a sermon on the covenant. Thank you, Woulard, for setting the table so beautifully. Now you've got a tall order to follow you, but I'll be doing a service and we'll explore the covenant that we've got in front of us to think through, and also a few hopefully fun surprises.
Thanks, Rob. And thank you, Woulard. That was, you covered a lot of turf.
Amen.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to say, let's see what we've got on YouTube here. Again, this service, I highly recommend you forward a link to this sermon to anyone who may have missed it today. We're going to proceed with our coffee hour now, and I'm going to end our broadcast on YouTube for now. Thank you very much for coming this morning.